Hello and welcome to this state championship edition of the WCS Sports Connection Show. I'm your co-host, Jeremy Qualls, and with me as always is co-host Tate Mathews. Tate, man, this is an exciting week. We got multiple teams in state championships. Before we get to that, let's talk about basketball real quick. Basketball and WCS Sports Conference is in full swing. We talked about last year what the future was going to hold for the basketball side of things, and it looks to be shaping up that way right now with two favorites kind of emerging early. Independence boys, coached by Greg Glass, right now are undefeated 5-0. And get this, starting point guards playing on the state championship football team on Friday night has yet to play a game. 6'6" on the sidelines of football right now, or actually plays for the football, is not getting to play either, who's a rotational guy. Grayson Murphy, currently 54 points away from being a 1,000-point scorer in his junior year, still has another year and a half to play. I mean, the sky's the limit for the Independence right now of the Eagles' basketball team.
Yeah, they are, and we knew that they were going to be one of the favorites along with the other team you're going to talk about. And that's exciting, man. That's an exciting time to see that. And then to be undefeated, like you mentioned, when your football guys are still out there playing, that's pretty good because you know they're going to come. They're going to add some athleticism to them and some toughness. Coach Glass, if you've listened to him the past 4 years, he said this is the year that he thinks they got a chance to be really, really good. Looks like he knew what he was talking about.
I've already had a chance to watch him play a couple games early. It's interesting to watch, sitting there thinking that you still got two of your main rotational guys, including one starter, not there. How could you keep the ship afloat, keep the things out of the ditches, keep it in the road? And they've done a great job with that. Murphy obviously taking the bulk of that with his brother Patrick as well, playing well. You've got all the kids there. I mean, it's just they're returning, like you said, returning a lot of that experience. They were a bounce away from getting in the sub-state last year. Looks like they're going to just roll on into that. I look forward to seeing that, obviously being one of the top two. Now, second and definitely not least, Old Sparty. I've put it right here.
You got your tie on today.
Old Sparty Summit sitting right now 7-0 behind the play of our boy Carter. JC right now averaging 30 points a game in these 7 games already. He is currently at taping right now. He's 7 points away from 1,000 points as 7 games into his junior year. No doubt he's going to have that coming up this week with the games they have against Lawrence County and another game on Friday. But it's going to be so much fun to watch these two square off.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be fun. And I got to give a special shout out to John Carter Sr. I was coaching my 9-year-old's basketball team a couple of weeks ago. He came up, introduced himself to me. John Carter Sr. said he watches the show every week, huge fan. So special shout out to him. Thanks for watching. And his other boy, Tate. So when you talk about the Carter brothers, man, they're going to be fun to watch. Carter brothers, Murphy brothers. But you're right. This Summit Independence thing is going to be fun to watch. We got some other guys that are going to play into it too. But to think about both of those, John and Grayson, both of them are going to break 1,000 points before Christmas in their junior year. That's amazing. They're talented young men. It's going to be fun.
And have mid-major offers already. Major offers coming. It's just to kind of determine on what level and who and where. But the sky's the limit for these guys. Ty Carter, like you said, he's going to be an unbelievable matchup there at the 1. Him and Grayson probably going to match up at the 1 together playing defensive matchups against each other. Man, I'm telling you, the border battle is going to be fun this year. John Carter Sr., please continue to watch because we're going to have plenty to talk about the Carter boys coming up. But however, it is football season coming to an end. It's state championship week. We have had a lot of firsts this year. 7 of 8 football teams got in for the first time ever. We've had 3 football teams make it to the semifinals, first time ever, and now we have 2 state championship teams state championship quality teams in the championship game with a chance to win not 1 but 2 gold balls at the 5A and 6A level. I would challenge anybody in the state, across the state, to come up with stats as good as that.
Yeah, and that's 5A and 6A. And so
that's true.
It is. That's an unbelievable accomplishment, and I think it goes to show a few things we already know. But we've got great families here in this county, great kids, and we've done a really good job. We've always had good football coaches here, but I mean we've got great coaches and coaching staffs in this county right now. Fun to watch, and we've got 1 in 5A in Independence and 1 in 6A in Ravenwood, and we're not in the excuse making business, but there's no doubt in my mind that Centennial is the second best 5A team in the state. So they just happened to both be on the west side. But I think the championship game in 5A was last Friday night, and you saw how that turned out. So a little foreshadowing. I think you know what I think is going to happen this Friday night.
Well, before you get to your pick'ems, let's get to some other things. Now, we talked about first, not only first as a team, now we have some first in the individual side of things. Let's talk about the Mr. Football awards that were given this week. Now, in the Mr. Football, there are 3 categories. There's kicker, defensive lineman, and offensive, the back category, if you will. For the first time ever, we had multiple Mr. Football candidates and finalists. But not only do we have those, we had one in each category. Nate Johnson, Independence, was up for the back of the year. Tyrell Dotson of Centennial up for lineman of the year, and Cruz Holt from Ravenwood up for kicker of the year. We go through this process, so let's talk about it for a moment. TWSAA does this every single year. Titans are the lead sponsor of this. The ceremony was held at Nissan Stadium. Nice gesture on part of the Titans. Very nice event. You know, Mike Keith emceeing it. Cruz Holt, obviously, the favorite candidate there, wins kicker of the year for Ravenwood, being the first in Ravenwood history to win Mr. Football. Now, let's go back in time for just a moment. Van Jefferson, if somebody would have said, here's the kids that are going to be up for it, I'm not taking away from Cruz Holt because he has done a phenomenal job. He's had an outstanding career up to this point already. And for foreshadowing for him, he will play a major role against Maryville, but that's later. You know, you would have thought probably All-American Van Jefferson would have been the first for Ravenwood. However, Cruz Holt wins it. You go back now, look at Centennial. Tyrell Dotson, first ever Centennial history, Mr. Football for Class 5A.
I think he's the first to ever be up for it from Centennial as well, not only to win it, but first nominee they've ever had.
And let's talk about the scenario, because it's a well-known fact that the scenario of how he won it, the other finalist had some problems and was eliminated from the competition. However, I think from all indications from people that I spoke to that Tyrell was going to win it regardless if the guy was in there or not. And then last but not least, Nate Johnson. Nate Johnson up for Mr. Football on the offensive side as a back, has had an unbelievable senior campaign. Let's talk about it for just a moment before we get into these games. Friday, state semifinal game. He has almost 300 yards, 6 touchdowns.
6 touchdowns.
I mean, let's talk
about 4
of
them in the first half. No, 5 of them in the first half.
Against the number 1 stingiest defense coming in being Centennial. Okay, so forget that fact. The process of the Mr. Football is that it's based on regular season numbers according to the protocols. Also, the voting has been done quite some time now. Now that, to me, is a little bit of a problem in the process. I believe that the team concept has to come into individual award voting at some point in time. Most of these kids are on the best teams. Most of these kids that got awarded these awards, teams are still alive. And I think that has to be taken into consideration. I think what they should do is take the voting all the way up into the semifinal week, get the semifinal game in there. The voting comes to a close, and then after the state championship game or during the state championship game, those need to be awarded, kind of like the Mr. and Mrs. Basketball is done. However, it's not done that way. They call the 2 finalists up, the other one being from Oak Ridge.
T. Higgins.
T. Higgins.
Who's a good player.
Yeah, I'm not taking away from T. Higgins at all. He's a junior over at Oak Ridge, committed to UT. And what happened was they announced that Nate Johnson wins Mr. Football. They hand him the Mr. Football trophy, and then about 10 seconds later they realized there was a glitch, something happened, the script was wrong, something was wrong, that he had not been awarded it. Take it out of his hands, give it to the T. Higgins kid, and give him the runner-up plate. Now, that's a lot to swallow. And I'm going to tell you something else that I realized at that point in time, that the adults, the coaches, the parents tend to get in this situation out of sorts in a way. They get upset, they get mad, they're angry, they get emotional, and at this point in time, the kid handles this with such class, character, and humility at the fact that it should teach us a lesson of how to act with that. Right. There's a life lesson to be learned in this, and I'm going to tell you right now the same thing I told him at the event, that T. Higgins would give his trophy up to be in his shoes, to be playing for a gold ball come state championship time.
No question about it, and you're right. And that's here's the good. The good is what we already knew. Nate Johnson is a quality young man. And if you don't, I know the University of Tennessee coaching staff was there. I know some other coaching staffs were there. They noticed how Nate handled that too. So, you're looking for student athletes to come in, and we all watch the news. We all, on Twitter and the internet, and to see a young man like that who's as good of a football player as Nate is, and then to handle adversity like that, I mean, his stock just rose even more, in my opinion, with those college recruiters than when he's out there scoring touchdowns like that. So unbelievable. It's a great event. Like you mentioned, they have it on the club level at the Titan Stadium, and the kids get in there and do that. And so, we want to make sure that they're doing a good thing with it. But man, you hate to have to see something like that happen. That's not how that's supposed to be. But again, I know this. I was lucky enough to be on one. In 20 years, Nate Johnson would rather have a state championship ring than a Mr. Football award. And here's the great thing. Nate's going to go on and play Power 5 conference football next year. It's just a matter of where. So you're right. It was an ugly ordeal, but the positives that came out of it, I think, are going to be even better. And again, like you said, what a classy young man Nate Johnson is. A lot like Van last year. So and you're right. Back to the process. I'm with you. I think they voted on it about 6 weeks ago. The stats are not even close. It really is a black eye. Nate, now obviously he's played 3 more playoff games after Friday night. He's going to end up with about 1,000 more receiving yards. He's going to have double to triple the touchdowns. So you're right, it's too early. I've never liked that. Here's the other thing I don't like about it is they've got guys from all over the state. They come in and they haven't even seen some of these guys play. They watch some film on them. Well, who knows what film they're watching. It was week 7 or week 8 of the season. Andrew Bunch has been hurt, right? So they didn't even get to see the best of Nate. Nothing against T. Higgins. He's a junior. He's going to be playing at Tennessee in 2 years. He's an unbelievable athlete. But really, if we're going on 2015, it's not even close.
Well, that's the problem that I have with this process. I believe this process really hindered the fact that I don't want to be sour grapes at the fact that one of the WCS Sports Conference kids had this happen to him. But I really agree. When this happens, you're going through the process, and I don't want to take away. I'm not taking away anything from T. Higgins. I think he had a fantastic, junior season, and all these stats are racking up over there. They see that, but as it progresses, as your team advance, as you get into the playoffs, all coaches from Memphis to Knoxville will know what's going on. Right now they can say
That's right.
that Nate had that game that he had Friday. They didn't have that information 6 games ago. So the process to me is flawed. I hope they have a process of fixing that maybe. And I also hope that both organizations reach out to the family and to Coach Blade and express, I understand the human error. That happens. It really does. There's a lot of things that go into that. It's kind of like when we did the Wilcos. You got to double, triple, quadruple check things to make sure that this kind of issue doesn't happen. Speaking of the Wilcos, I think Nate Johnson, it will play out fine for Nate Johnson at the Wilcos. It may not be Mr. Football, but you can see that it will play out. But like you said, I think that will fuel the fire come state championship time. And if they were watching the game that we're just about to talk about, there is no doubt that he would have won the trophy and they handed it to the right kid. So let's talk about that real quick. Centennial versus Independence. Centennial coming in, obviously ranked number 1, seeded number 1. Independence seeded number 1. Independence right now number 1 in 5A in the state, 37th in the country, and with a high-powered offense against the number 1 defense. It had the makings for it to be an unbelievable game. I was there.
TV game.
The TV game. Here's a shout out to the TV folks. Did a fantastic job. This is to dispel the rumor of TV hurts the gate. It was the largest gate that we had all year. Biggest gate this year alone completely. Unbelievable environment. And the game was over in a heartbeat. Now, Centennial wins the kickoff, wins the coin toss. Defers and wants to kick. All right? Starts off with an onside kick, gets it back, drives, has a great drive, comes up short, kicks a field goal, boom, 3-0. Centennial.
Big game, Brian, setting the tone.
He did. Kicks off, 2 plays, 30 seconds later, touchdown Indy. Both catches by Nate Johnson.
That's right. And they knew he was going to get the ball. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Centennial gets the ball back, has a pretty decent drive. Indy gets the ball back. I mean, it was just, it was amazing to watch. We've watched many games. We watched how many games of Van Jefferson we watched last year. To see Andrew Bunch at top form at this time of the season and Nate Johnson at the top of his game at this point in time of the season, I'd have a hard time believing Division I private, Division II private, 1 through 6A. I want to see a team that could beat Independence the way they played Friday night.
It'd be fun to watch. And like we said, I think Centennial's the second best 5A team in the state. And Coach Rector will tell you, they played twice now, 49-6 and 56-15. Hey, we raised the white flag. They're better. And there's nothing wrong with it. This is, there's state championship teams, and then there are great teams. And I think this one, we got one more to go. But I think this Independence team is a great team. You got a great quarterback. He's a senior. He's playing at a high level. And the thing that's most impressive, there's a lot of things that's impressive about what Nate did the other night, but they knew that's who they were keen on. Centennial's trying to take that away. He's got 9 receptions for 222 yards. I haven't seen every game, but it looked to me and it looked to me like Coach Blade threw in some wrinkles. I've not seen him on that. It was kind of a jet sweep, rocket sweep for a touchdown. I know they ran that a couple times. That was a great wrinkle. I haven't seen that. I don't know if they've run it yet. I don't think they have. It's just finding ways to get your playmaker the ball. But 9 catches, 222 yards against Centennial, and I don't think he played much in the fourth quarter. It was an unbelievable performance, one that we won't see like that again. And again, remember, Andrew Bunch was a big part of that. That guy puts the ball on the money. He makes the right reads. Coach Blade making great calls. But you're right. It was if you want to talk about peaking and playing your best football at the end of the year, Independence is doing that right now.
Well, I mean, you have to give a shout out to the offensive line. They protected Bunch enough to be able to get those passes off, but the accuracy of this young man, it is, Tate, it's mind-blowing that a Vanderbilt has not come in on this kid, that a local school, even an MTSU, somebody here locally have not come in on this kid and say, if they watched that game, they're thinking, we've got to have this kid. And it's just the fact that the decision-making. We've heard Coach Blade talk about this all year. Put him through workouts. Watch him go through his route tree. Watch him go through his progressions. Watch him check down when something's not there and hit, as he goes through his progressions. Right. And I saw it firsthand the other night, as close as I've seen it all year. And some of their post patterns that he hit, I mean, you're not talking about the reason the scoring happened was because he puts it in a place that nobody else can get it, and he leads a kid that can run 4.4 speed. It's not like he has to reach back, catch, adjust, and then the defender's on him. It is, I'm hitting my stride, and he hits him full speed, and there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing you can do about it. I mean, even on the fade routes, there was a couple incompletions. I'm telling you right now, there were 21 points. 21 points left on the field. This score at half was 35-9. I'm telling you right now, it could have been 56-9. I'm not kidding. At the half, there was 3 passes in particular that they had a drop on. I think who had this, not dispelling what Swayze and Pierre Watkins both did. It was just happened to be a drop across the middle. They catch it, it's over with. I mean, there's no defense catching them. So it's really, truly fun to watch this team play. And then, shout out to their defense.
Yeah. I mean, Centennial scored 25 points the week before against Henry County, who, a lot of people consider one of the best defenses on that west side. And you're right. When you look at the stats, Mondu Sawyers with 96 rushing yards, Pisacane with 189 passing yards. And you think, oh, man, they moved the ball a lot. Well, it's because they got the ball so many times. Independence scores so fast.
You're right.
Centennial got more drives in this game than they did in the 2 Henry County games put together, probably because of the speed and the quickness that Independence scores with. But that's their philosophy. That's what they want to be about. And you're right, the defense is playing well. They played well all year long. You look at the 4 games that Independence has had to go through in this playoff run, and none of them have really been close except for the Hillsboro game. I don't know that any division has played a tougher 4 games. I mean, these are good football teams.
Absolutely.
And they are destroying them.
8-2, 11-1. I think Hillsborough came in at 9-3 or 10-3
Right.
or 9-3,
9-3.
right in there. So I mean, yeah, there's no doubt. I know we spent a lot of time. We have to get to Ravenwood, but let's talk real quick. You're talking about Mathews Sawyers. Mathews Sawyers has 1,392 yards on the year, so it's not like Mathews Sawyers is not a good running back.
Yep.
And they held him that night to 96 yards. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
I bet he got a lot of them late.
And he may have. Unbelievable game. Nate Johnson at this point in time, right now, 74 receptions, 1,433 yards. Receiving.
It's amazing.
Absolutely amazing.
And remember, he doesn't get a chance to return the ball a whole lot, but he's a very dangerous return man too. Hey, I'm gonna get on my soapbox for 1 second. These teams you're mentioning around here that have not offered Andrew Bunch, there's not a one of them that can get 10,000. Vanderbilt can on some days if there's a good crowd. They can't fill their stadium up. They're always complaining about, oh, we're local, come support us. We can't get anybody to buy tickets to our games. And you got a guy like this, and you haven't even offered him yet, and you're going 1-10, 1-9 with 1,000 people in your stands. Well, maybe if you offered a guy like this, who's obviously better than anything you got on campus right now, maybe some people would come watch you play. I've never understood it. I think it's gross. It's all going to work out for him. It really is. I mean, it's not.
Spoken like a true UT fan. I like it. He's dogging the Vanderbilt fans. But
well,
to back your theory, 172 completions out of 255 for 675 quarterback rating now.
And make no mistake about it, this is all about one thing. If Andrew Bunch is 6'2", 6'3", he's got more offers than he knows what to do.
I refuse to believe that.
Let me remind you of a name, Bill Whittemore. Nobody offered him either because he was 6 feet. He goes to UT Martin. That guy puts him in a wishbone. Bill Whittemore. That's about like putting Andrew Bunch in a wishbone. He leaves, goes to junior college, then he goes to Kansas. He's the Big 12 newcomer of the year. I think he was all conference a senior at Kansas. And guess what? He was no taller as a senior than he was when he was a senior in high school.
Man, the emotion's flowing. I
really
love it today. Now,
upsets
hold on. He's got, out of 255 attempts, 172 completions. Get this, 3 interceptions, 2,682 yards, and 31 touchdowns. Now, you go find me somebody that's going to be able
And
to
he
do
didn't
that.
play 4 games.
And he's missed. That's right. He's missed. He's missed 4 games due to the injury.
Well, you remember, we said this at the beginning of the year, barring injury, which, it's all going to have a happy ending, but barring injury, there's no telling. I mean, this could have been, there's no telling how many yards he would have thrown for.
Speaking of not offers, let's talk about the Ravenwood Raptors right now. Under the radar, nobody's talking about him. Seth Rowland is an absolute machine right now. This kid, Chris. Seth is his older brother, Juice, from last year. Chris Rowland, how many times have we made that mistake on the show?
Yeah, a lot.
Not a single offer on the table for this young man as well, and he is absolutely blazing teams.
Well, you look at White Station and Whitehaven, 2 teams, 6A teams from Memphis. You know they can run. White Station, and a couple weeks ago, I was incorrect. You were right. They did have the kid that was going to Oregon. That was 2 weeks ago, White Station. They can run. He's taking a kickoff or a kickback against both of them. Again, he's not doing this against teams that can't run. I don't know what's more amazing. The fact that he keeps taking them back against teams that can run like they can run, or the fact that they keep kicking it to him.
Well, I hope that George Qualls and the pride and ego of Maryville's on the line here. And I hope they say, you know what, I'm going to kick it to him. We're going to show him. Please, I'm telling you right now on the air, kick him the ball and see what happens. Chris Rowland right now sitting at 774 yards rushing right now, and on receiving he's got 924 yards receiving, and on special teams he probably has close to 500-600 yards as well as there. So I mean, we're talking about knocking on the 3,000-yard plateau overall. I mean, Ravenwood right now, like you said, against these quality teams, these athletic teams, this kid is performing. I mean, right now they beat Whitehaven, as we said, to get into the championship game in the semis. Beat them 20-13. It was a close game. Ravenwood had to come from behind to win this thing. They were down 13-0 for a while there. Came back 13-10 at half, took the lead, scored 10 points, and held Whitehaven scoreless in the second half.
Yeah, an impressive performance, and don't misunderstand. Whitehaven had a lot to do with it, but this was not Ravenwood's best offensive performance, especially in the first half. And so to come back and beat a team in the semis of the 6A playoffs and a team like Whitehaven, you got to feel really good about that. So hopefully this was their bad offensive game for the playoffs. Maryville's got a really good defense, but it just wasn't clicking for whatever reason. And to come back, grind that win out. A lot of people throw the word grind around right now. They really did grind that one out. Big win.
Well, in prime fashion, it's no secret to Coach Hester. I'm not talking about you anymore, Coach Hester, or the Ravenwood Raptors. You're going to stay under the radar, under the table. So let's get to these state championship games. We're going to start with Independence versus Sevier County. Let's talk a little bit about Sevier County.
Well, they've got a really athletic pro-style quarterback who can do a lot in Deuce Wallace, Vanderbilt commit. Number two, you'll see him on both sides.
So let me get this right. He is a Vanderbilt commit, and we're fixing to see him versus Andrew Bunch.
That's right.
Okay. All right.
That's pretty good. I like that. And Nate Johnson. Nate Johnson will be he's number two on the Sevier County side. Number two on the Independent side is Nate Johnson. Don't get the two confused. But he's a kid who can do both. He's an athletic kid. He was not a Mr. Football finalist, but he was a Mr. Football, I believe, semifinalist. But they're going to kind of like Independence. Obviously, they're not going to score in the bunches, no pun intended, that they do. That Independence does, but they're going to spread the ball out, move it around a little bit. He's an athletic kid. You got to contain him. But really, that's what you're going to see on the offensive side. They run a 3-4. On the defensive side, they're designed to stop the run. I think, you were talking about earlier on Centennial. It's really, you got to pick your poison. If you sit back and don't pressure Bunch, he's going to pick you apart. If you come after him, you better get to him, and you better get to him fast. He gets the ball out so quickly. It's going to have to be linebackers coming on the edges and things like that. I just don't think it's a good matchup for Sevier County.
Well, you can use all your weapons you want against Nate Johnson because he has 6 other targets that can make it happen. Right. You've got Swayze, you've got Pierre, you've got just
Seth Huner.
Yeah, the Huner. The list keeps going
Daniel
and going.
Wright out of the backfield.
So best of luck to Sevier County with that. Now I don't want to discredit. Congratulations for them being in the state championship game, but I think they're gonna capitalize. I think this is something that doesn't change from all year long. I think this thing at halftime is decided.
Oh, it could be. And it's on turf, so if the weather's good, whoo.
Ravenwood versus Maryville. Indy versus Sevier County in the 5A game. That happens Friday night, 7 o'clock at Cookeville at Tennessee Tech Stadium. Ravenwood versus Maryville happens Saturday night at 7 o'clock. What do you think?
Well, Maryville's on a 44-game winning streak. The last team to beat them was Whitehaven. We all know what happened last year in the state championship game. That was some of the most fun I've ever had. You talk about a high and a low. T.D. Blackman, he just won the 6A Mr. Football Lineman of the Year award. He ought to be familiar to us. Not only is he the guy who picked off the 2-point conversion in the end zone at overtime last year, he's also the one that blocked the field goal. He's back. He's just a junior. But Maryville, you got Dylan Hopkins at quarterback. He's thrown 2 interceptions all season long. One was in the quarterfinals against Blackman. The other was last week against Oakland. But this defense, this Ravenwood defense, is special.
As we're going off the air, I'm going to give you some scenarios. Last year, Van Jefferson up for a finalist did not get it. Get up there, blocked at the end of regulation, picked off. Maryville won every scenario. This year, Cruz Holt wins it. We're going to get to that same scenario. We're going to make an unbelievable drive. Ravenwood and Cruz Holt from 40-plus out is going to win the game. We're going to ride out onto the sunset on the shoulders. Cruz Holt, Mr. Football. Right now, you've heard it here first. Ravenwood breaks the streak, pulls the unbelievable win because nobody's giving them any credit. They're under the radar. I'm not going to talk any more about them because I'm superstitious, and I'm going to have to sit out in the parking lot because I told Will if that happens, I'm sitting in the parking lot to keep this thing going. So I'm going to be watching it from a phone. Big, huge, absolute opportunities for WCS Sports Conference to bring 2 gold balls home. This has been the WCS Sports Connection. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.